Hey guys, it's Travis and Taylor of BetKarma.com. This is the brand spanking new Plus Money podcast where we're going to talk about our favorite Plus Money bets, targeting week one, but we might spread them out there between, whether it's NFL, NBA. We might sprinkle some MLB stuff in there as well, depending on seasonality. But we are going to talk about our favorite Plus Money bets as well as recap the best underdog hits from last week. That being said, if you guys did hit on some underdog plays, please post those screenshots of your winning tickets on Twitter and tag our home account at bet_karma, and you get a chance to be mentioned on a following podcast. So make sure you guys tag us there, and we'll look at that. So, anywho, this is BetKarma.com's podcast, so if you have not checked them out yet, please go to BetKarma.com, check out all of our free sports betting tools. There's a lot of sexiness on there that'll help you determine what is the best possible bet to bet on. That being said, Taylor, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to start talking about some NFL and some football. We finally have a Sunday, no more all the way until February with football. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I've already seen a ton of memes like going in hibernation for like 27 weeks or whatever it is. Like don't wake me up or don't talk to me. Leave me alone. But yeah, no more Sundays without football. Is always great.
That's always a great thing to hear.
What are you I feel like the first Sunday after the Super Bowl is the worst Sunday of the NFL, or not the NFL season, but the worst Sunday of the year. Is that like, okay, what do we do now?
That's so true. It's like you go from every Sunday, watching sports, betting on football, hanging out with your friends, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like all of a sudden this dry spell and lull where there's absolutely nothing to do and nothing to talk about, especially in terms of sports for a while. I mean, it's like you have the NBA season, but it's kind of like in the middle of it. So there's nothing too exciting happening. And then baseball's sort of about to start. So it's just a very quiet time in the sports world and you have nothing to do.
But alas, we have made it through the off season. We are now to the preseason. Granted, the preseason can't be the most exciting thing in the world because everybody's ready for that week one, but we still are excited that we're getting some football back. And hey, you can still bet on the preseason on top of that. So I did mention at the opening that we are going to be focusing on underdog, hence the name of this podcast, Plus Money Podcast. So I'll go ahead and get things started by asking you, Taylor, is there any matchups for week one that right off the bat you're looking at? I feel like the underdog has a shot here to win the game. What are you looking at for week one?
Yes. All right. So week one, my biggest underdog matchup that I think I have going is the New England Patriots versus the Dolphins. Now, Patriots are favored going into this one, but here's my reasoning on why I think the Dolphins could be the underdogs. We've got Tua coming into year two last year, starting off the bench. He takes the Dolphins 6-3 winning record in his rookie season. And I feel like with the Patriots, we've got Cam Newton starting. We already know what we're going to get with Cam and Bill Belichick. I feel like the Dolphins right now are working with Tua and they're really trying to strengthen their offense. I know right now during camp, they're working on his long passes and they really did build up their offense in getting him some weapons, on the offensive side in Jalen Waddle and some other guys that I think are really going to help out Tua. So I feel like with the improved offense from the Dolphins and with them already knowing what to expect from the Patriots, I think they could be an interesting underdog to look at in week one.
You stole my underdog play.
I did?
As you were talking, I slowly reach over to the left and grab my new Miami Dolphins hat and slowly put the hat on my head like, oh yeah.
I have a new Miami Dolphins hat too. I just got one. It's a vintage
become best friends
from the 80s. That I just got. I collect vintage sports hats. So but my rule is every time I go to a new city is the only time I can get a hat for a sports team. So I just went to Miami for the first time in May and I was like, okay, I got to get my sports hat. So I got a vintage Dolphins hat. So it's my new hat I've been sporting lately.
But yes, I definitely am on literally word for word verbatim of all the additions we got. Waddle is already putting on a show in preseason. Will Fuller being a nice, speedy deep threat as well. Something I was going to talk about. I was going to bring it up later, but because we're on the topic of the Patriots and the Dolphins, one of the things we're going to touch on is week one starters. So there's a lot of options you can bet on of who's going to be the week one starters, and there's some QB battles. And one of them is, I believe, let me see what the odds are real quick here. Mac Jones. So the New England's quarterback out of the draft, Mac Jones out of Alabama, is plus 200 to start. I actually see a lot of people leaning that direction that he's going to beat out Cam Newton. I think that whether it's Cam Newton or Mac Jones, I still am on the Dolphins at plus 110 money line, no matter who it is. I feel like if it is Mac Jones, my confidence is a whole lot higher because, somebody right out of college, starting their very,
Rookie
very first experience. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I would agree with you there too.
And I don't know. Like Cam, I feel like Cam was a great quarterback. And when the Cam came over to the Patriots, I was like not too worried about it as a Dolphins fan. Like, I mean, he was great. He's not the worst quarterback now. I just hope that he doesn't come back to like that MVP form because that would suck for us. I was just going to say,
I have a very weird love for Cam Newton. I always say my two favorite quarterbacks in the NFL are Russell Wilson and Cam Newton. And they are totally two different style quarterbacks, and I feel like have very different personality types as well. So I'm not really sure why I love them both so much. But when
I was just about to ask you, what is your reasoning?
I like that Cam is so just puts himself out there and just says what's on his mind. And I just feel like he's a very, athletic quarterback. I love Russell Wilson's quiet, reserved, humble demeanor though. And I love his smarts, and he's also just unreal. So I don't know. I like them both for very different reasons. But when Cam Newton was with the Panthers and had his MVP season, I bought a Cam Newton jersey. So I do own one, although it's a Panthers jersey.
I feel like you own 6 million pieces of sports memorabilia.
I own a lot of sports clothing. And everybody always be like, where's your random fandom from? And I'm like, well, I've lived in a lot of different areas covering a lot of different teams. So it's your fandom grows for those teams over time, especially when you're covering certain players and stuff. You develop a love for them. But I'm I stick to my Chicago teams for the most part, besides football. That's the only place.
Fair enough. So the other things on top of the week one quarterback battles, if you will, we were talking about Mac Jones, who's plus 200 right now to start week one. And then there's also Teddy Bridgewater with the Broncos is a plus 120. The only other options, there actually is no other options for the Broncos. I feel like the plus 120, even though that wasn't my underdog play, I feel like that is Teddy Bridgewater is going to get that at the moment. And we'll see what happens in preseason. And then Justin Fields is plus 300 to start for the Bears. Don't necessarily think that's going to happen.
I do not either. Yeah, I don't either. I think it's definitely Andy Dalton week one. I think eventually Justin Fields will see the field, though, for sure.
Unless Andy Dalton decides to tear it up and Justin Fields like, I guess I'm redshirting this season.
I just really doubt that in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on to other quarterback news as well for week one. The biggest news in the last, 48, 72 hours is Carson Wentz, apparently since high school or whatever I think the doctors did some x-rays. Like, yeah, it looks like you've had this since high school. Had this crazy bone piece in one of the metatarsals of his foot or whatever the terminology was. And they got surgery to remove it. And so he's out 5 to 12 weeks. And why there's such a gap between that time frame is it all depends on how he heals because it's different for everybody. So 5 to 12 weeks, Carson Wentz is going to be out. I'm probably going to bet 100% that it's not going to be the 5 weeks. So he's most likely going to miss out on the first couple weeks of the NFL season. So that being said, there's been a lot of speculation. I was like, okay, who's going to open up quarterback for the Colts? Phillip Rivers, the most recent Colts quarterback, people are saying he's hinting at unretiring. I mean, all he really said is that he's getting back in shape. That if he had to start tomorrow, I wouldn't be ready. But he's splashing out these hints. I mean, when you've played as long as Phillip Rivers has, and you have as many kids to support as Phillip Rivers does. If somebody's like, "Hey, we'll give you a couple $1 million, you start a few games with us," he'll be like, "Yeah, okay,
I'll do it. Yeah, I'm in."
But the only other option on the roster right now, or not the only other option, but the leading option is second-year QB Jacob Eason. And then I had something else out here. Oh yeah, also Colts. There's so many injuries, so many things happening. Mm-hmm. So the super spectacular guard for the Colts, Quentin Nelson, is also recovering from another thing. He had foot
Foot
surgery. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's recovering from that, and then he's aiming to return week 1. So if they're able to get Philip Rivers back, which I'm sure, even if he's overweight, is still going to be better than Jacob Eason week 1. That also getting Quentin Nelson back as well. If that happens, I may look at the Colts. Maybe not money line, but maybe the Colts spread. Which let me check here. +3. So yeah, they're 3-point underdog. It is the Seahawks. I mean, Russell Wilson, I do agree, is a pretty awesome person, but I might give that a look if we get some Philip Rivers news.
Seahawks and Russell Wilson all the way.
Even if Philip Rivers comes out of retirement.
Oh, I mean,
you have no chance.
4 games last season, no chance. I was actually just reading as of about an hour ago, like the Colts right now, according to them, have no plans to not remove Eason from the starting position. I know, of course, they're probably just saying that right now, but they're saying this is like a great chance for him to develop and like come into his own and come into the position. So I don't know. I feel like if he starts, there's no chance that they're beating the Seahawks. 0 chance.
Well, yes, that was my caveat. If it's Eason, not going to worry about it. But if Philip Rivers, Philip Rivers does have some accolades, does have some stats to back it up, and I'm sure that all of Jacob Eason's family and all of his fans are going to be commenting on this, like, "What are you talking about? He's the best quarterback of all time." I'm sure all the comments on this are going to be straight Jacob Eason fans.
Yeah.
But the few other quarterback things here. I don't even know what day of the week is. What's today? Wednesday. So a couple days ago, Stafford, which is now the Rams starting quarterback, he injured his throwing hand thumb on a helmet, just throwing the ball and hitting on a lineman's helmet. So we're not sure the severity of that. It is the throwing hand. It is thumb, which is very important on the throwing hand. So we're just kind of waiting for more news to roll out there. But that is something to. I don't think, even if it's a bad injury, that I don't think it's going to keep him out unless it's he severed his nerve. I don't think it's going to keep him out of week 1, but maybe they'll be more careful with him in preseason.
Right. I would think so too. I feel like be more careful in preseason, but I feel like there's no way with them, getting him this season that he's not going to be starting week 1 if it's just a minor little injury.
Yeah. But we'll see, because we've seen crazier things happen with quarterback thumbs. And then the last, which is, I don't want to talk too much about this because It's a weird situation with what's going on with Desean Watson and the Texans. So we know that Watson is probably never going to play a game for the Texans again. That's what I'm leaning towards, because
I agree. I don't think he is either. He's gone.
But I don't think he's never, unless, of course, the legal side of things prevent him from taking another snap under center.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, because in my eyes, if it were an ideal situation, ideal world, if everything comes out that he's being accused of is true, I would think it'd be ideal that I wouldn't see him ever playing in the NFL again. But I think we've seen over time that the NFL cares more about money and business than anything else. So I'm sure he will see another time where he's going to be playing in the NFL. And if I were to guess that he'd go somewhere, I think possibly it would be the Eagles. That's my guess on that. For right now. Yeah, I think the Eagles. That's like, I've heard some talks about that, that they've been interested in possibly taking him off the Texans' hands. So that's where I would lean with that. I would prefer that he doesn't play in the NFL anymore, if everything that's coming out is true. But I feel like he definitely will.
Yeah, it's just a wait and see with just the legal side, but
right.
But I don't know. It's like I said, so it's a weird, touchy subject, because I'm not on either side in terms of, like, I'm literally not on either side. It's something we just have to wait to see,
Right.
I don't know. It's weird to talk about, because you can't say, like, necessarily like, oh my gosh, he's such a horrible person, because if in theory, not saying this is the case, but in theory, like, it's all hearsay, which I'm not saying it is, and I'm not leaning towards that either.
You don't know. Yeah.
But if in theory, like, we can't say, like, oh, well, I hope he never starts again, because maybe something comes out that it's not 100%. But I am leaning towards, my gut is telling me that when you have that many people saying the same thing,
there's got to be some sort of truth behind it, something somewhere.
They
Yeah.
didn't just make it up.
Right.
But I'm not the league. I wasn't there, nor am I part of the legal team on either side. So
Right.
move on from the Watson news. Some other injury news that's very important for Week 1. We're gonna move on to the San Francisco 49ers. Nick Bosa, former Defensive Rookie of the Year, in Week 2 of last season, this man tore his ACL, and he is on track, quote unquote, hopeful to return to Week 1. Which, of course, I feel like Nick Bosa is a huge factor in terms of if people are putting money on 49ers or not, because he's such a crazy force on the defensive line.
Definitely.
And then the other thing with, this is another quarterback thing I was going to bring up on the previous topic, Trey Lance, which one of our DFS NFL leads, Ben, has been talking nonstop about this man in our Discord. He's been heating up in the practice stuff so far, and he's like, he's looking at Trey Lance's like DraftKings salary, like, oh my gosh, he's on like 4,000. Like, oh, if he starts, I'm locking him in everywhere. He's a pretty big Trey Lance fan. So odds wise, even right now with Trey kicking butt in practice, he's still doubtful as the Week 1 starter at a plus 225.
I see that too. I looked at actually Trey Lance very closely before the draft because I thought maybe the Bears would draft him. I know that like 49ers fans absolutely can't stand Jimmy Garoppolo, and I really don't understand why. Because as a starter, he has a great record. Yes, he hasn't really been able to stay healthy, but like I don't really understand all the hate behind him. I feel like he's a pretty darn good starting quarterback.
I think it's his face. He just has that face that's easy to hate. He has one of those faces.
I don't know about the women that I know. Face that's easy to hate. I would have to disagree with that.
I liked your shocked face when I said that. Like, what are you talking about?
He's got it all going for him. But I'm like, Trey Lance, one thing, like, I think he's a super athletic quarterback, like, great arm and great on his feet. But, like, one thing you have to look at is his, he played for North Dakota State in college. I just feel like his schedule difficulty and how much actual time we have to look at of him playing due to COVID and everything is like a very small subset. So I'm interested to see how he's going to be in the NFL, if he's going to pan out like people think he is.
It's such a weird thing to. I mean, I do agree to some point, like you said, with North Dakota State, and like, well, he wasn't versing Alabama and Clemson every week.
Right.
But at the same time, like, there's been so many small school quarterbacks, and just not just quarterbacks, but all positions they've come out of the woodwork and they've done amazing. A lot of them, and then a handful of them have not done amazing, and they relate it to like, oh, well, he wasn't tested in college.
Right. Exactly.
But another thing, let's talk about the opening game of the season here, which it's a pretty good opening game, I think. I feel like sometimes sometimes they don't hit the nail on the head with this one, but taking quote unquote America's team, which I still hate that. I've always hated America's team.
I'm a big Cowboys fan, so I like it.
Let me guess. Do you have a Cowboys jersey or a Cowboys hat?
Oh, I have so much Cowboys gear. I have like a bunch. I grew up. I have been raised a Cowboys fan since birth. My dad is a gigantic Cowboys fan, so I've got an Irving jersey. I've got an Emmitt Smith. I've got a Dak. I have a Zeke. I've got hats. I've got a Christmas sweater. My dog has a jersey. Like, we're the Cowboys all the way.
All right, so I feel like there's been a lot of jerseys and hats and teams. So I just need clarification here.
All right.
Who's your NFL team?
My NFL team is the Cowboys, 100%. Number one. Number two would be the Bears, just because I'm from Chicago. But I go Cowboys all the way first.
And there's no love at all for what's going on in Arizona with the Cardinals.
I mean, I obviously pay attention to what's happening, but I like Kyler Murray a lot. I'm, I guess, excited that the Cardinals got J.J. Watt, even though, like, Cardinals fans out here are like, this is the Messiah, like, everything's going to change, and like, think that he is the answer. And I'm like, J.J. Watt is not our answer to getting us to a Super Bowl, in my opinion. So I'm not like
I
a.
mean, if he also plays tight end, though, there may be an argument there if he does tight end and defensive end, and he just scores all of the touchdowns.
We'll see. I just don't foresee that happening. I mean, I hope the Cardinals do well. I think it'd be exciting out here for Phoenix. I mean, what I do love the Suns. I think that's because I worked for the Suns for a while and
Do we need to
covered them.
talk about the Suns? We need to talk about NBA Finals now.
Don't get me started on that. That was a real depressing time for me. But I am a Bulls fan first, but I have grown like a love for the Suns from living out here in Arizona now and covering them for so long. But I loved how like the city got behind the Suns. So if the Cardinals were to be really good, I'd love to see that like the city of Phoenix back the Cardinals the same way they did with the Suns. But I don't have like a super strong fandom for the Cardinals. My
So
team
so your experience right now with you actually being in Arizona, you don't see. Well, granted, I mean it's been the off season, but like I guess we can revisit this or rehash this, with a couple weeks into the season. But you don't feel right now that the city is backing the Cardinals. Granted, I know, like I said, it's the off season, so there's not too much chatter about it.
Yeah.
But you don't think they're backing the football team as much as the
No.
basketball team.
Oh, definitely not. So one thing that most people don't know is the Cardinals Stadium is actually 45 minutes outside of Phoenix. It's all the way in Glendale. So that's like one thing that I feel like kind of works against them because they're like kind of out in the boonies in a way. So I just feel like they don't have the same fan base as the Suns do just because the Sun Stadium is literally in the heart of downtown Phoenix. It's right next to Chase Field where the Diamondbacks play. So people definitely really rally around the Suns. Like the Suns, that's Phoenix's team. Like when it comes to hockey and the Coyotes, you don't really hear a lot of chatter. The Diamondbacks are obviously horrendous right now, and I'm not even to blame them. They're in like probably the best division in baseball, so they have a lot of competition there. And then people seem to really love the Suns, even when the Suns weren't, in the NBA finals like they were this season. Everybody like backs the Suns the most out here for sure. It's definitely the biggest team, biggest fan
I guess I
base.
see the argument in the proximity thing.
Yeah.
That
I
makes
think that's like a large part of it, honestly.
Gotcha. So going back to what we were originally talking about, the Tampa Bay Dallas opening game of the season. Dak Attack is back, and this is also Bucks. Bucks being the only team in the history of the Super Bowl to be returning all starters from a previous Super Bowl season. So they are back, and we have Dak is back, but of course Tom Brady. Do we really want to see him win any more games? Period. I mean, I don't. What are your expectations? So right now the line is, as of this very second, the line is Tampa Bay is favored by 6.5 points, so roughly a touchdown.
Okay. Doesn't shock me. I think going into it, obviously you got the contending Super Bowl champions, and I know you're saying you can't stand Tom Brady, but you can't bet against Tom Brady. Like the man.
Oh, I can. I'm not saying I'm going to win, but I can. I can bet against him.
Bet against him, but like you're probably not going to be right. That guy can do anything. I mean, he just turned 44 years old, and it's like he just won another Super Bowl. He's just like unstoppable, unreal. Like I wouldn't put anything past him. As much as I hate to say it, I feel like with Dak coming back, the Cowboys are obviously going to be, fingers crossed, a lot better than they were last season. I definitely think we have a pretty good shot of winning the division. But with Dak coming off of an injury, he's probably going to be slightly rusty. You're playing Tom Brady and the Bucks. I think the line sounds pretty consistent and right to me. I feel like the Bucks should be favored, and the Bucks will probably win, as much as I hate to say that.
Freaking Tom Brady, man. The only positive of him going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was that he can no longer stop us from going to the playoffs. But still, seeing him, I'm like, yeah, okay, we don't have to worry about him anymore. And then he wins the Super Bowl with whatever team he joins after that.
Great. He's just unreal. There's just, I don't know. That man's like superhuman.
No, well, I think he actually is a robot, which is, I'm sure, against some rule in the NFL. So this is the first episode for week 1. We are in week 2. We're going to be sprinkling some player prop bets for plus money player props. because right now we're recording in the early parts of August, the player props aren't solidified because, I mean, injuries are a thing with preseason, so anything can happen, especially we don't even know who's starting on some of the teams as well. But once week 1 happens, and whatever injuries that occur from week 1 or whatever news, week 2, the next episode, we are going to be doing player props as well. So not just yet, but soon. So that being said, I'm going to, on my end, leave with with this little underdog statistic that I looked up earlier. So in 2020, last season, out of all of the teams that played at least 3 games as a home underdog, so 3 or more games as a home underdog, and they finished with a positive win-loss record. Out of all those home underdog games, they had a positive win-loss record, along with a positive margin of victory of all of their home underdog games. There's only 3 teams, and that is, of course, Barf, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and your team, the Dallas Cowboys. In other words, not too much has changed in their starting lineup, or I don't even know why I said starting lineup, the roster. I'm stuck in baseball. Freaking baseball season. You know what I meant.
I knew.
Yeah, not much has changed. So, if you see some home underdogs with those 3, just keep your eyes peeled. They took care of business as home underdogs last year. But Taylor, on your end, what else would you like to say to end this amazing first episode of this best podcast ever?
Well, I guess I'm gonna end it with I'm super excited for football. I can't wait to see what happens. And I also I wrote something down. Oh my God, I forgot it. What I was gonna say I had like one other game that I was like, oh, I feel like this could be a good underdog pick, but now I forgot it. I'm looking it up.
Well, apparently it wasn't that good.
It was shoot. What did I write down? Oh, I know what it was. Oh, I was going to say, wait, why did I?
The suspense is growing.
I'm like, what did I? I think I picked the Chargers are. I know what it is. So I put Chargers play the Washington football team week 1.
Yes.
And the Chargers are currently favored.
Yes.
Over the Washington football team. But I think that could be another underdog game to look at. And my reasoning why, we've got the quarterback situation of the, who's going to be the starting quarterback, Justin Herbert or Ryan Fitzgerald, even though I think it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I feel like going into that game, Washington's defense is so much better than people are giving them credit for. And I think they're a lot better of a football team than people are giving them credit for. And I'm going to go with Washington football team over the Chargers for another underdog game to look at.
So you were talking about the QB battle for Washington. I think you said Justin Herbert, who's the quarterback for the Chargers. So you said
I meant.
I was like, wait a second. Are they? Is Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Chargers now?
I meant Justin Herbert. Yes, I meant against Ryan Fitzpatrick. I feel like with Ryan Fitzpatrick being a veteran against Justin Herbert coming to season 2. So
yeah,
that's what
I mean. I was all about having Fitzpatrick on the Dolphins, or Fitz magic, if you will. And he's a gunslinger. Like he can throw 50 touchdowns in a season, but it'll also be coupled with 50 interceptions because he just slings it. So it's always a crapshoot with that. And because, it is only a point difference. Washington's a 1-point underdog as of this recording anyway. Yeah. I don't hate that one either. Don't hate it. But make sure you guys, if you did enjoy this, you go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. We will be back between the weeks of week 1, week 2, whether it goes live, we push it live on Wednesday, what day of the week, I'm not sure yet, but guaranteed, before the start of week 2, you're going to see episode 2. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Click the thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on social media and in our Discord chat. Thanks.
Bye, guys.